I read before that an intermediate will understand the concept, and when you ask them to explain it, they will overcomplicate it. And an expert will oversimplify it almost, you know?
I think that's like with everything, right? If you give enough people an excuse to not do something and out, then most people are going to take it.
I did notice during COVID that it was kind of like running a race where if you put all the people who are willing to run the fastest and you tell them you can run even faster, and you tell all the people who are just kind of going to walk and go medium or not want to win, not want to lose, just not want to, they'll kind of keep doing what they're doing. And you tell the people who aren't running, who are basically walking, they can just stop. They'll stop and they're going to start getting lapped, right?
You know, the one thing that I've always listened to when mentors give advice is, don't get in your own way. And if there's someone that can do it better than you, or someone that can grow into the role that has a lot of potential, then step out of that way.
Well, yeah. Welcome to the Real Vision Show, where the game of real estate is all that we know. Step inside the booth, conversations that inspire. We talk keys, deeds, and that property empire. From first-time buyers to investors with a plan. Real talk, real lessons from the real estate race. Delighting up.
What's up, everybody, here for this next episode of our Real Vision Studios podcast center here. We're sitting with the gentleman to my left, Mr. Michael Aronski. Mike is originally an East Coast guy who relocated to the West Coast, built one of the largest real estate teams in the entire state of California as a transplant with an East Coast look, East Coast accent, East Coast swag, East Coast clothes, all of the above. Now he's back here in a training and consulting and business growth and development role with Real Vision Properties. And we're here to introduce my friend to my left, Mr. Mike Aronski. Mike, usually I start at the beginning, but we'll work our way back to that.
Thank you for the kind intro, by the way.
You're welcome. Well deserved. I forgot to mention your athletic career, but what do you think goes into being an effective sales trainer? Like, what are some of the things that you feel go into effectively coaching people up?
Once again, thank you for the kind introduction. I'd be remiss to say that a lot of that success included a lot of people. I have some great partnerships, like the one that I'm establishing here now. I think the first most important thing about training salespeople is a real desire to want to help. And for me, when I first got into real estate, I was very fortunate. I had a tremendous mentor, and there was a real desire to understand kind of where people are, meet them where they are. It always kind of dumbfounded me trying to look at some of the titans of our industry back in LA and try to understand how they got there when they've been doing it for 30 or 40 years. So I think when there's some relevance and you're new in the business, but you're found some success, that's a great opportunity and great time to be a mentor and start building yourself up as a sales trainer. So I think, after the first 3 years, I really had that opportunity then from being the one being mentored to start mentoring myself. And I think just having that relevance of knowing how to kind of create that business in a modern market really helped.
I feel like you make the concepts approachable. Like you break it down to a level where it's tactical. You can go like linear, like A, B, C, right? Like, do you feel like, what's your comment on that? Like,
So, I would say that it always comes down to fundamentals for me, especially with new agents. I think we oftentimes will forget just how big everything can be when you start your real estate career. I had a cool experience yesterday. I was doing some volunteer coaching over at Providence Country Day School with the varsity soccer team, and their varsity coach, great guy, Calvin McNaughton. He is an English Premier League soccer player, so he played at the highest level of soccer. And yesterday, the entire time, he was just expressing the key fundamental aspects of passing and moving and touching the ball. So just the building blocks of like your success. Similarly in real estate, whether we like it or know it or not, everything starts at a fundamental level of knowing how to say and do the right thing. And that starts with some basic scripts.
that's awesome, man. I mean, I read before that an intermediate will understand the concept, and when you ask them to explain it, they will overcomplicate it. And an expert will oversimplify it almost, you know?
That's definitely what I'm inspiring to try to do, or aspiring to do, rather. Yeah,
So speaking of soccer, switching gears, you played soccer growing up, right? You played a lot of sports.
I did. Yep, I played soccer growing up. I played a little bit of basketball, and then I even did a short cameo in lacrosse.
You got dunked on before by somebody. Who was the NBA player you got dunked on by?
Um, so I got dunked on in high school by Rudy Gay.
Rudy Gay. Shout out Yukon
Yeah,
Huskies
you're
and
breaking my lip, Rudy Gay.
Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay. He might have had. I think he was close to 20,000 points. He was a professional bucket. So,
He
uh,
was.
so
Yeah.
so so play. You play, but really your sport was soccer though. That's what
Yeah.
carried you through college, right?
Yep.
So you went to college with a scholarship, or
Yes. So I went to Rollins College down in Winter Park, Florida.
okay.
They were my last visit, and my best friend was already attending there. They offered to match the scholarship that I was getting from Northeastern and a few other schools. And I decided to roll the dice and went down there. And it was the best decision I ever made for myself.
It was the first time you relocated because you were in New York. You grew up, right?
Syracuse, New York, upstate New York.
So you went from Syracuse, New York to Florida. That's probably common. Usually people do it when they're like 3 times the age you were, I guess.
Yeah, or more.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
what was that like, and how do you think that set the stage for your future
Yeah.
relocation to LA? Let's start with that kind of two-part question.
Sure. First of all, shout out upstate New York, Syracuse. I think we always used to joke around that the East Coast guys have an East Coast hustle,
Right.
which was able to attribute some success out on the West Coast from that. And when you grow up in an environment that's really harsh and cold with a lot of snow, you definitely create some grit in your life for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, Going down to Florida was, as a college student, there's pools, there's a lake. It looked like a great time. It looked like a fun time, and the academic rigor was also very strong there. So it was a bit of a risk, but I took that risk and that chance on myself, and it ended up paying off. I was one of the few freshmen that got to play right away. Ended up getting a little bit injured later in my career that kind of derailed a little bit of my soccer momentum, but couldn't have asked for a better college experience, and it really prepared me for what the next move in my life was gonna be, which was gonna be another big, extreme change location-wise.
So you moved to LA right out of college, or was there some time did you go back to New York before you relocated?
It's a great question. So, the rule with my parents was that I had to get a job or go to law school.
Okay.
So I took my LSATs and I promptly did not go to law school. So I had no choice but get the first real job that was available to me. So I first took about almost a 1 year teaching job at a boarding school outside of Boston, about an hour over in Connecticut side.
Okay.
And then from there, after about a year, I packed my car up with just my car and about 500-600 bucks to my name. I moved out west to Los Angeles.
When did you meet your wife?
Yeah, I met my wife, 2019.
So you were in LA.
I was in LA. We
Wh
met, out on the beach, and, on our first date, we found out that we actually have a lot of things in common, and one of those things was that her family also grew up in upstate New York.
Okay.
So she would do summers out by a lake that was about 45 minutes away from my house.
So you guys grew up 45 minutes apart upstate New York, and you found each other 3,000 miles away on the beach in
Hermosa Beach,
Hermosa Beach,
California.
kinda
Yeah,
beautiful beach in Espanol, La
yes,
Playa
it
es
is.
Bonita. So alright, so you relocated to New York from the boarding school where you kinda got a taste, I guess, maybe ironically, your first taste of, living around, Southern New England. Um, but from the boarding school, you pack up the car, you got $500, $600 in your pocket, you go across coast, you land in LA, right?
Yep, right
Uh,
outside of Venice Beach.
right outside of Venice Beach, and around how old were you then?
23 years old.
23. When did you start selling real estate, and what did you do out there to when you put your boots on the ground?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that I did was kind of what I knew, which was soccer.
Okay.
So I started a soccer franchise for children where we would go into private preschools, kindergartens, park programs, birthdays. And very quickly I realized there's definitely a market for it. There's some aspects of sales where you're going to the schools, you're going to the parents, But you get to also work and do a little bit of what you love. So I started that first franchise. I ended up flipping that and started my own franchise or my own business that I grew out for a number of years. And I kind of had an aha moment about 6, 7 years living in LA where I wanted to do something more. And that was to get into real estate. Right around that time, one of my best friends was starting his commercial real estate career, and he thought that I would be a good fit for that. But because I had that business, I decided to go in residential
Right.
thinking that I would have a lot more time to be able to run 2 businesses.
Run 2 business simultaneously, and that was a kids coaching and development
That's right.
franchise basically, right?
Yep, and I
So
still own that out in LA.
I know when we met, that was one of the things that we all connected on, because I've had some maybe top down or give back, style involvement in the kids sports scene, but especially you and Bootsy had
Yep,
in common because like you guys, it's like literally your world is helping kids, achieve better childhoods with using with sports as a vehicle, right? So
yeah, it's all to improve their cognitive and physical abilities and hopefully give them some confidence. It's a really safe environment that our coaches are helping train them. And it was also a great place to kind of jump off and help with my real estate career too as I got going because it was already that trust and responsibility that was established.
so you're in the sports, you're in a franchise, you flip the franchise, basically, run your own model, make your own improvements to it in LA. As an East Coast guy, I've always felt like, it's ironic you met a girl from the East
Yep,
Coast, we're on the West Coast, but I feel like you come out, you have that little like fat, little different accent. You have like like people are just interested, right?
totally.
Because I think that one of my observations over time, and I want to get into this with you as we move this to this point in the conversation, is that people feel like if you are born in a certain area and you grow up in that area and you have this sphere of influence already built, that you have this huge advantage over somebody who transplants. And yet I've watched time and time again where somebody will be a transplant, but they'll go all in an area, they'll buy into it, they'll learn about it. It's like when you go on vacation and you go, I'm going to make sure I go to this museum, this place over here, this restaurant that's new in town, as they said, is the best on, if I find on whatever, Zagat or Michelin or whatever, this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to all these places because it's so great. Meanwhile, the place you live, you hardly ever go there. You're like, oh, that's where the tourists go or whatever, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So it's almost like when you're a transplant into another area, I mean, if you're too shy, if you have other downfalls in some kind of a sales related field, it'll ultimately hurt you even worse. But if you don't have those things, it's almost like you have this focal point of interest, right?
Right.
Like it's very interesting about you that you were in upstate New York in a market where the prices are probably still significantly lower than Rhode Island. You went to this market where it's 4 times the average price
Yep.
and crushed it,
Yep.
right? So I'm sure that was not overnight. You
Definitely
mentioned in
not.
the beginning you started out. Why don't you tell everybody listening to the call what your split was on your first team when you started out with your mentor, who you still give credit to this day?
Yeah, I still give credit to her this day. Shout out to Danielle Glue. She's also a partner of mine in some commercial property that we own together.
Very cool.
So that relationship has been strong over the last decade. But my split when I started with this team, which I would repeat those 3.5 years in a heartbeat, was 40% on the buy side of any deal, whether it was a sphere or a team lead, or 5% on the list side.
40% on buyers, 5% on listings,
With the opportunity to work those open houses from the listings you created.
with the opportunity to work open houses as an unknown person with a willingness to connect with everybody in that area
Yep.
and demonstrate your skills, which were learned, right?
Yep. Yep. All learned skills. One of the things that our team mentor had us doing was 3 times a week. In every morning, we were doing script practice and training, and then we'd get right on the phones and start prospecting. Either circle prospecting for an open house that we would have that weekend, or for one of the team events that we'd be throwing.
So you didn't see those open houses as a burden, like, oh man, I got to drag my ass out here on a Saturday and do this. I could be at the beach or something. You looked at it a little bit differently.
I did, yeah. We weren't paying for any leads, so there was some opportunity to get a team lead from the 25 to 30 years. And frankly, the way that it was taught to us was that these open houses were team lead opportunities, and they truly were. Um, so I became just an open house rat. I was in open houses at least, 2 times a week. Sometimes I was doing twilight open houses on a Thursday or Friday from 5 to 7 p.m., and then Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 4, 4 p.m. And I did that pretty consistently for 2 years or so, before just kind of scaling back and doing 4 to 6 open houses a month.
When you so first 3 years, you're with Danielle Glue
Yep.
and her team, and then you moved to EXP, right? And you was that when you start when Rise Real Estate started?
No, so first I actually moved to Chrissy Strandhill
Okay.
Properties, and I had a loose partnership and then more formal partnership with another mentor of mine, Will Joseph,
Mhm.
who just absolutely crushes it in the Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach markets. But we were very much responsible for creating our own business. It was my first real experience as a solo agent, I would say. At least those are the actions that I was taking. And, I decided to make that move 3 weeks before COVID hit.
Gotcha.
So, as everybody knows, there was a lot of interesting fires that were happening in those first few months after COVID, right?
COVID was one of the most interesting times, like, people who didn't live through that, like my youngest daughter, hopefully will tell her about it. We'll never see that BS again. That's just my personal opinion, but,
Yeah,
but I did notice during COVID that it was kinda like running a race where if you put, all the people who are willing to run the fastest and you tell them you can run even faster, and you tell all the people who are just kinda gonna walk and go medium or not wanting to win, not wanna lose, just not wanna they'll kinda keep doing what they're doing. You tell the people who aren't running who are basically walking,
yeah,
they can just stop.
yeah.
They'll stop and they're gonna start getting lapped, right?
I think
Yeah.
that's like with everything, right? If you give enough people an excuse to not do something
Sure.
and out, then most
gonna
people are going to take it. I don't know if it was in every state, but in California, real estate agents were considered essential workers.
Okay.
So we didn't have as much, I don't know, I guess as many stops as potentially some other careers could have had.
Right.
But after the first few months of kind of just trying to hold some deals together, my business just exploded from there. So I kind of took that momentum on, and a couple of the big teams that were currently at Chrissy Strandhill at the end of the 2020 year were moving to EXP, and looking always for more mentorship and guidance. I decided that I would follow them as well. And then I spent the next year and a half at EXP.
And then you guys switched to Real from there.
And then we switched to Real. Yeah.
So subtle plug for that. They saw a really good thing and then they saw an even better one. Anyway,
Yeah.
with regards to that, with the team production, I want to give people listening an idea of some of the scale, right?
Sure.
So you started out as a agent working, looking at everything that somebody else might complain about as an opportunity.
Yep.
5% split as a listing agent for bringing in listings, and 40% on the buyers. And then you went into a partnership. And what was the best year that you ever did personally, or that Rise has done collectively? And how many agents are you up to? Give us the numbers. I know you're a humble guy, and but let's just give it
Sure.
to us, Cole, my brother.
Yeah, sure. So absolutely. So I think for my personal production, because I've been pretty much out of production except for working a few of my own clients still for the past 2.5 years. 2021 was around a 70 million gross year.
Okay.
And then so far, I'm one of the owners of the Rise Group, which is now fractionalized and has grown to be over 500 agents
Gotcha.
in 2025 with multiple different locations. And, I don't have ownership or any say in what's going on in some of the other teams, and they're opening teams in Nashville. Shout out to Nashville. Actually, I just gave a referral for a client there.
Shout out.
Chicago, and all over kind of the state. But the Rise Group as a collective is well over 500 agents. And last year, our total unit count in LA County was number 1 in LA County, number 9 in the state, number 39 nationally.
And so you have a couple partners on that. So you have learned how to, work together with other individuals to bring your skill sets to the forefront. And getting back to the beginning of our conversation, if I'm not mistaken, one of your main responsibilities there is coaching and development of the agents, right?
Yeah, it started off that way for sure. We have, the one thing that I've always listened to when mentors give advice is, don't get in your own way. And if there's someone that can do it better than you, or someone that can grow into the role that has a lot of potential, then step out of that way. And right now, for the team that we have down in the South Bay, we have two great team leaders that are completely different styles and the way that they go about things, but together they work really well. So I've been able to start focusing on business at hand that's going to be here in Rhode Island and New England. Those guys are doing a great job leading a team of about 50 agents that we have there. And I learned a lot from my partnerships actually with both Sonny Narang, who's kind of the face of the Rise Group, and then Chris Fornell, who's the president and one of the CEOs as well.
Let's talk about Rhode Island, brother.
Yeah,
Let's talk
talk
about Rhode Island, Southern Massachusetts. What are we doing out here now that you're out there? You moved. So for everybody, I'll make a quick bridge. I know the answer to this. You moved for family.
Yes, yeah,
It,
yeah.
and now
Short answer.
and now that you're here, what are your plans? What are we working on?
We're working on getting a team to be the number one team in Rhode Island.
Hell yeah, brother.
I think that's what the kind of vision that I see here at Real Vision Properties and what the potential is here. I've already in the past have invested in other teams. This is my first experience of moving now to another market. I have almost a decade of real estate experience to bring with it. And we're going to be supplementing and helping agents grow their businesses here locally. And I personally have the opportunity to kind of take everything that I've learned and now apply it into a completely new market. And I can't wait to start selling real estate here.
I think it translates really well. And your story proves to anyone who has an excuse about why they can't do our business or why something is a waste of time or why they're going to skip the fundamentals, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I think you're someone who takes that excuse right out of their mouth, kind of,
Well, yeah. I mean, I like to think so. It's always easier to preach it
Yeah.
a little bit, especially after a few years of doing it and being able to get out of production and scale business a little bit. So this is kind of coming back, and I'm going to have to hold myself accountable to do some of the same actions that I'm mentoring, other agents to do.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to kind of getting back into the swing of things. But yeah, I don't have a sphere here. So once again, I don't have a collective group of friends or family like the ones I created in California after staying there for many years. So, I'm going to be getting into open houses again. I'm going to be running down leads and setting time blocking schedules to prospect.
Where do you live now?
My wife and I bought a house in Barrington,
Barrington. And so,
East Bay.
East Bay,
East
so
Bay.
shout out East Bay. We're coming for you, Real Vision Properties.
That's right.
On the East Bay. It's official. We are not just tourists when we cross we cross over, so
That's right.
we've always done well on the East Bay, to be honest with you. It's in this state, you can kind of diversify yourself. And I think it does pay to sell in multiple markets because I was at a property in Burrillville today.
Yeah.
And people would be like, oh, I would never move to Burrillville. Da, da, da. If they saw this property, they would.
Right.
Right. And if they saw this property, they would want to move there. And they would go, oh, well, I was really only looking at, I wanted to be on the ocean, or I wanted to be on this lake, or that lake. I wanted to be on Johnson's Pond in Coventry. If they see this property, they're very likely to want to move to Burrillville, right? So it's not a place where the counties are so big. Like sometimes I joke around because we'll have 39 fire marshals. Actually, if you go to West Warwick, they have 39 fire marshals alone that work just for that department. They all have assistants. Don't watch this if you're in the West Warwick Fire Department, please. But if you will have all these superintendents, all this stuff. We act like we're the size of California in Rhode Island, but we're really not. So we've always done well on the East Bay, but now with Mike, we're really looking to plant our flag in that part of the market and take market share, and be big players. I think that you're someone who can help us get there, brother.
I appreciate it. I think there's a lot of opportunity, not just, with this team, but in Rhode Island in general in the real estate market, and having a backbone like Real And then, I met with quite a few teams before approaching you guys about trying to do this, see this vision out, no pun intended.
I'm glad I
Vision
picked up
board.
the phone on a Sunday.
I'm glad you did as well.
Yeah, it was Mike called and I looked him up. I looked you up quick and I was like, this guy looks legit. And then I met you, and I'm like, not to turn it into a bromance, but I'm like, this guy, he's down to earth, and and your success speaks volumes. The achievements in this business kind of precede you, and you just let that speak for you for the most part in terms of any bragging or anything like that. And we got down just to talking, and just like you said, it felt like an old friend that also had a good head on their shoulders. And then just when I watch you train people, I want to leave people with this. At Real Vision Properties, we are dedicated to making our people better.
Yeah.
We don't just want to throw you in the mix and say, okay, hopefully you'll succeed. So not only are you plugging in with the best cloud-based company that we think exists in terms of the compensation package, the benefits, revenue share, stock options, we're also trying to bring, and successfully, in our opinion, with a chance to only get better, which is what we're going to do, bring the ability to get local, relative, important training about how to make you better, about how to gain more leads, about how to navigate situations that, like, when you watch Mike train, I love it because you're breaking down how to go to an open house and what to say.
Yep.
One of my flaws as a trainer is I'll break down how potentially the Egyptian pyramids were not actually built by the Egyptians, and they might have been built by somebody else, and it's an example of why you should do something. And then sometimes I leave somebody who's just trying to learn what to do in the wind, even if they're an intelligent person, right? But I watch you, and I watch you do it, and that's why we have our agents sitting down with you in our Real Crushers program. And I'm just really grateful to be in business with you, and buyers, sellers, investors, agents, East Bay, West Bay.
Yeah.
We're coming for you. It's going to be our state. So
Yeah, looking forward to it. It is something that is a learning curve, and it's a growth process.
Yeah.
It was one of the first things after doing some trainings in LA a few years back that one of my partners pulled me aside and said, content, unbelievable.
yeah,
However, this class is mostly agents who haven't sold a property yet. So it was phenomenal learning about all the intricacies of trusts and probates, but we got to get them just like crawling before we can even walk, and you're sprinting.
it
was a learning curve for me as well. As you gotta crawl before you walk before you run. And
that was your aha moment for this.
for sure. Yeah. And whether we're brand new or you've been in the business for 2 or 3 years, sold a few $100 million, there's always something you could still take away from it. And even in like reflection of the mentoring or the coaching that I do, have my own aha moments. Like, hey, I need to get back to some of the basics of time blocking in my schedule if I want to find success.
1000%. So thank you for coming and sit with us today.
Appreciate it.
For anybody who made it to the end, I never do this part. I'm supposed to do it 3 times a video, but if you're watching on YouTube, please like or subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us out a lot. If you liked what we had to say today, you can find us. You can find Mike at Real Vision Properties. In this Cranston office, he's in here, even though he lives in Barrington, he's in here more than people who live in Providence and Cranston. So you know where to find him. Where can they find you on Insta, Facebook, all that stuff?
Yeah, my Instagram is Mike Aronski, Aronski. I recently changed it from South Bay Ski because now I'm on the East Bay.
Yep.
And the YouTube channel will be coming up shortly.
All right, cool. Look out for my man to the left. Big things coming at Real Vision Properties with Mr. Michael Aronski. And thank you, everybody, for listening today. Peace out.
Well, yeah. Welcome to the Real Vision Show, where the game of real estate is all that we know. Step inside the booth, conversations that inspire. We talk keys, deeds, and that property empire. From first-time buyers to investors with a plan. Real talk, real lessons from the real estate race. Delighting out.